If you are a woman entrepreneur or a woman leader on a big mission, and sometimes imposter syndrome starts to creep into your consciousness, or you just get afraid of cancel culture. I'm about to interview one of my favorite humans on the whole planet. I am bringing you Sam Horn, who just wrote a book that John Mackay, the founder of Whole Foods, recently said is the course correct for today's cancel culture. You're going to love this. She's amazing. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend and mentor and colleague, Sam Horn. If you do not know Sam Horn, she's the founder and the CEO of Intrigue Agency, helping people create respectful, collaborative, compelling, and one-of-a-kind communications and projects that scale their income and their influence for the good. Sam's work has been featured in the New York Times, Fast Company, Investors, Business Daily, Business Week, Forbes, Inc., Huffington Post, NPR, just to name a few. Her most incredible best-selling books, including Pop, Tung Fu, Concentrate, What's Holding You Back, and Washington Post bestseller, Got Your Attention, have been endorsed by dozens of thought leaders, including Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, Ken Blanchard, and Marshall Goldsmith. I love learning about Sam, and her most recent book, Talking on Eggshells, is my favorite. I bought a copy for my entire team and all the women in my top mastermind. Sam has a 20+ year track record of results, including speaking for such clients as National Geographic, Cisco, Fortune 500, Capital One, NASA, Young Presidents Organizations, and the US Navy. I think we can all agree that this woman is so impressive. Top rated speaker at Inc. 500 and Inc. 5000, along with Seth Godin, Jim Collins, Tim Ferriss, and has helped entrepreneurs receive $6.6 billion in funding, and has helped so many speakers and entrepreneurs really position their gifts on stage. I am so excited to talk with you, especially about this book. What's the story, Sam, behind Talking on Eggshells, and why did you write it?
You know, I was giving a Tung Fu workshop, and a gentleman raised his hand in the Q&A, and he said, I work for a lawyer. He said he's very demanding, very arrogant. He says, the whole team just talks on eggshells all day long. It's like we never know what's going to set them off. And I thought, there's a lot of people dealing with that right now. And I knew that this was an idea whose book had come.
One of the things that I also just want to lay down is that you've become the woman with so many best-selling books out there who is so uniquely positioned to write this book, endorsed by Marie Forleo, and just incredible energy behind this book. Like, can you talk a little bit about the shero's journey that led you to being ready for a book like this?
I grew up with a mom and dad. My dad was emotionally distant, and my mom was emotionally wounded. And Sage, they didn't talk to each other. They had all these years of hurts and so forth, and they didn't know where to start, so they didn't start. And so I grew up suffering in silence. And if something was wrong, well, you didn't talk about it. You just stuffed it, right? And then I was in the relationship with a bully, and someone who did his best to knock me down so he could feel tall. And so I've had the experience on the conflict extremes, the one where you don't talk about it and the one where you get angry in order to get your way. And I thought there had to be a better way. And that's what my hope is for Talking on Eggshells, is that instead of being conflict averse, or instead of just going along to get along, there's got to be a better way. And hopefully that book shares a lot of them.
Thank you so much for being so transparent. I could even feel a little bit of that warmth in the tender part of my belly and throat when you're talking about our emotionally distant parents that so many of us had. I think so many women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we didn't grow up with parents who were had those emotional communication chops. I remember sitting at the dinner table being like, why aren't we talking about something real? Like feeling like such an outcast. And, now it's the opposite. Now my family calls me for advice. And I think so many women can relate to what you just shared. And, how do we navigate things as our businesses speed up, as we start to have more success, as we, end up in more leadership. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves with, an angry client or a frustrated teammate. And it's like, nobody ever taught us how to do this. What's your advice for, go-getter women, but who are also sensitive and figuring this road out?
I think one of the most important things is to understand that we can be a pattern interrupt, that we don't have to continue to be the way we've already been. We can do things differently. And in particular, you and I are both very pragmatic and proactive, Sage. So unless people are driving, I hope they get a piece of paper and they put a vertical line down the center. And on the left, we're going to put words to lose. And on the right, we're going to put words to use. And we can talk about real life situations. What can we do when someone's blaming us for something that's not our fault? What can we do when someone's taking their anger out on us? And over on the left are reactions and words that hurt. And over on the right are responses and words that help. And so at the end of our call today, people are going to go, next time that happens, I'm going to be able to handle it instead of think of the perfect response on the way home. Sound good?
I love this. I'm doing it right alongside you. And I hope every single one of you is actually doing this because it's actually so helpful.
Good. So shall we talk about, how about if someone, as you said, at work and at home, yay, I love in real time you did that. And guess what? At the end of this call, people can post that on the refrigerator to keep these ideas in.
I would love it. Take a picture and post it in our Women Rocking Business Facebook group because this is like real stuff. I literally just went through this process with Sam, getting ready for my Lisa Nichols interview that some of you heard about. So Sam, keep going.
Okay, so let's talk about someone's taking their anger out on us. And Sage, you and I are both storytellers. So here's a quick story that shows what someone did in that moment that helped instead of hurt. My Aunt Kay is 84 years old and she volunteers at a hospital 5 days a week. Well, she did this even during COVID. And I said, what was it like? She said, stressful. I said, well, put me in the scene of a stressful situation. She talked about a woman who came in holding her phone up. And she said, my daughter was in an accident. She just texted me. She's in the ER. I've got to get in to see her. Well, Kay called the ER. There was somebody already with her daughter. Now, you may remember the rules is that only one visitor per patient per day, right?
In COVID, yeah.
That's right. She had to give the mom the bad news, and the woman lost it. She is screaming at Kay. Now, over on the left, put the words, how rude, right? How rude. Why are you blaming me? I didn't make the rules. There's nothing I can do. And you see that rabbit hole that we go down if we react to what someone says. This is not fair, right? Guess what? Over on the right, put these 4 words. How would I feel? How would I feel if my daughter were in the ER and I couldn't get in to see her? And Sage, it moved her from impatience to empathy and from contempt to compassion. She called the ER back and she said, who is with the daughter? It was the Uber driver who had brought the young woman in. Kay was able to explain the situation, thank him, he left, and the mom was able to be with the daughter. And now look at the difference in how rude, how would I feel to move us from impatience to empathy, contempt to compassion, from nothing I can do to let me see if there's something I can do.
This is amazing. I was actually talking to somebody that I worked with really early in the morning last week, and there was a lot of feelings happening over there. And I could feel myself getting impatient. Like, I need to start my day. I have meetings. I have this, I have that. And I remembered your advice when you said to shift into how would I feel? And I remember taking a breath and asking, how would I feel if I were this person in this life with these circumstances? And Sam, my heart just opened up. And, I think I turned what could have been a big fire into just, a set of smoldering ashes that was able to get put out within a few hours. And, I was able to go about my day feeling like I was open-hearted. And so I just want to say to every single one of you, it's natural that we get defensive or triggered when we're, in the face of, that frustration. And, you say something else about this, Sam, that I'd love to to ask you about, because you say that fighting fire, you believe in fighting fire with water. I'm really into the elements. So I want to hear more about this, because instead of thinking of the perfect response, right? Like we can
Right.
fight fire with water.
Is that in these contentious situations, in these stressful situations, challenging, it's so easy to say what's on the tip of our tongue, and that almost always makes it worse. So how can we hold our tongue and then say something in the moment, once again, that maybe it leads to cooperation instead of conflict? So can I share another of my favorite examples?
Please, please.
Okay. I was visiting my son Andrew in New York, and we're getting caught up in the living room. And his 1 year old son, Hero, crawls across the floor, hauls himself up on a guitar stand, starts banging on the guitar. Now, over on the left, Andrew could have said no. He could have yanked the guitar away. He could have said, stop banging on the guitar, all which would have reinforced the dreaded behavior. Instead, Andrew said one word. Do you know what it was? Gentle. And Sage, I saw Hero's face transform in front of me, and Hero reached back up to the guitar and he went strum, strum, strum. And he made music in that situation because Andrew shaped his behavior instead of shamed it. He coached him how to do it right instead of criticizing him for doing it wrong. And instead of making him feel bad, he helped him feel better, all by choosing a word that planted the seed of what he did want instead of what he didn't. Look at the magic when we do that in our life.
You know, I could actually imagine repeating that word to myself could be helpful in on
Mm-hmm.
stressful days. You know, one of my favorite songs of all time is the song by Karen Drucker, and it's called Gentle with Myself. And I think just we can be so hard on ourselves. We're not robots. You know, I just am so grateful for this invitation to be gentle with ourselves. And, you know, that can be hard when there's so much fire and chaos and so much uncertainty in the world, especially when we're growing businesses and leading organizations. And you agree, I know you agree with Pema Chodron, who said, don't let people pull you into their storm. Instead, pull them into your peace. And that can be easier said than done. Do you want to talk any more about that?
You bet. It's like just right now, every single one who's watching, listening to this, think of a challenging situation they're in. And think about when someone makes a mistake or when someone doesn't listen. It is so easy over on the left, once again, to use words like, stop yelling at me, stop hitting your sister. You know, you put too much information on your slides. You're late again. Once again, all of those words will reinforce the dreaded behavior, and they will lead to resentment and resistance. So if we pause for a moment, and I know you're a fan of Esther Perel, as I am, and she said something so powerful. She said, behind every criticism is a veiled wish, right? So instead of stop hitting your sister, no, what do we wish? Give your sister space, right? Instead of stop yelling at me, please speak to me with respect. Instead of you put too much information on your slides, please use up to 10 words on your slides. And words set up ripple effects for better or for good. And when it's right there on the tip of our tongue, if we ask ourselves, no, what do we wish? Often the words will come out that help set that in motion.
This is huge. I hope y'all are taking notes, right? Just please speak to me with respect, right? That one phrase, that one request, it elicits respect. It's a pattern interruption. And I've actually used this one too since I learned it from you. I'm so glad we're getting these recorded for our community. I'm so excited for every single one of you to continue to align with what you really want to say as the most compassionate, most aligned version of you when we're building these businesses. One of the things we believe in this community is that our businesses are a spiritual path, right? Like building this business is a path to our own freedom, our own spiritual freedom. And this is the work, who we are asked to be in leadership when we're standing in the fire. You know, this really is the work. And talking on eggshells also shows us how to overcome nervousness and walk into high stakes presentations with confidence and high stakes negotiations. Can you share another technique on how we can do that? Because so many of these women are speakers and like me going in to do high stakes interviews and media opportunities and lead webinars and all the things.
Absolutely. And in fact, we're going to talk about the key to confidence is a great first 60 seconds. So we're going to talk about that. And I wanted to add something to something you said a moment ago is that over on the left, please put the word deny. Because as you said, a lot of us, people are saying something and we don't agree with it, or they're accusing us of something that's not right or fair or true. And our first impulse is to deny it. I'm speaking at a women's leadership conference, and in the Q&A, a woman put her hand up and she said, Sam, why are women so catty to each other? Yikes. Sage, do you see how if I had said, I don't think women are we're arguing and reinforcing your point. Over on the right, put the 4 words, what do you mean? Or do what Don Draper said. He said, if you don't like what's being said, change the conversation. So never, ever repeat a negative accusation because we reinforce it. If someone says you don't care about your customers and we say we do too care about our customers, we're arguing with our customers about whether we care about our customers. Instead, either say, what do you mean? Well, I've left 3 messages and no, real issue, address that. Or simply go on record with what you do believe. Instead of disagreeing, I don't think women are catty to each other. Do you know what I found? Women are real champions of each other, in fact, and you're a walking, talking role model of that, Sage. That's what you model for your community, and that's what you absolutely are an advocate for.
Thank you. And thank you for that reminder that words are so powerful. And when we start to really get this, we can take any situation and turn it into an opportunity for our own our own truth, our own highest truth. And I love that reframe. Are women catty? In my experience, I have found women to be incredibly supportive, incredibly up for stepping into that rising tide lifts all boats mentality, right? And as you do this and as you bring this leadership into the stage, I think the opportunity here is to be more yourself, is to be less protected, because you know that no matter what people ask you or toss you in the chat or when you're taking questions, I know that's the part that a lot of speakers get most nervous for. Are there any other tips that you can give those of us who are speaking more and taking the stage?
Let's talk about that first 60 seconds. It is, as you mentioned, I was the pitch coach for Springboard, and now they've helped women entrepreneurs generate 26 billion in funding valuation. So that's pretty impressive. So here's a short story, and then let's unpack it. And now everyone watching, please think of a situation coming up where you're making a request or a recommendation. You're asking for funding. You're asking for the audience's attention. You want people to sign up for your program. You want clients to work with you. So what's a situation where you're going to be making a request or a recommendation? So listen to the story and then let's figure out how you can hit that 60 seconds out of the park so you have people at hello. You can walk into any situation with confidence if you do this. So let me distill the situation. It's Kathleen Callender of PharmaJet said, I've got good news, bad news. I said, what's the good news? She was speaking in front of a room full of investors in New York City. Great news. I said, what's the bad news? She said, I only have 10 minutes and I'm going at 2:30 in the afternoon. She said, Sam, you can't say anything in 10 minutes. I said, Kathleen, you don't have 10 minutes. You have 60 seconds to get those eyebrows up. So now before we work together, I hope everyone right now on the left put explain. Do not explain your idea, your business, your coaching services, your membership community, because that's infobesity. Instead, do what Kathleen did. She said, did you know there are 1.8 billion vaccinations given every year? Did you know up to a third of those are given with reused needles? Did you know we're spreading and perpetuating the very diseases we're trying to prevent? Imagine if there were a painless one-use needle for a fraction of the current cost. You don't have to imagine it. We're doing it. Are your eyebrows up? Do you want to know more?
Absolutely. My brain just kicked into gear. And like, what a difference than what most people would do, right? To stand up at 2:30 in the afternoon and, pitch one more idea at the end of a busy day, snoozer, right? Instead, she asked what would wake this crew up the fastest. And, that ability to grab somebody's attention in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 10 seconds. What's the first question? What's the first statistic? What's the first attention getting piece of research you can share to wake people up and to actually enroll them in, this person has something to say. I am now listening. I think that tip alone would be worth every single minute you've spent listening to this episode, not to mention all the other morsels of wisdom that the amazing Sam Horn has dropped. I'm so grateful for you. And, one of the things that the women here are doing are publishing their own books. And your Tung Fu book, the godmother of Talking on Eggshells, is still selling in 17 languages 25 years after it was first published. So, what's your golden advice on how we can write a quality evergreen book that scales our income and our impact for that many years?
Well, I love this question, Sage. It's a guy named Steve Persante was the publisher of Barrett Kohler. They were Publisher of the Year a few years ago. He published my Got Your Attention book. And I said, what's your criteria for publishing a book? 3 words. Show the shift. So you see, Sage, that's why we juxtapose. I hope everyone writing a book or giving a presentation or explaining to people why to sign up for their membership community or coach with them, they put a vertical line down the center, and over on the left is what doesn't work. Over on the right is what does. Because then if you make those don't do this alliterative, number one, you get people on the same page. Number two, you have proprietary information that helps you break out in a sea of sameness. Furthermore, here's a 60-second story of how it's going to monetize this, and it's going to make your book, your body of work, evergreen. I had an opportunity to do some training for Kaiser Permanente, and I went back 3 years later as a patient. When I walked in, the receptionist recognized me. She looked around. There was no one else in the lobby. And she beckoned me over and she pointed to the words to lose, words to use reminder card that was still taped to her desk. And she said, Sam, I'm the first point of contact. And I was hired because I'm a friendly person. And I never understood why people were so rude to me when I was so nice to them. And then I took your workshop and I realized I'm using all these fighting phrases on the left all the time. I keep this insight in mind because it helps me catch and correct and use a friendly phrase instead of a fighting phrase. She said it has transformed the way I show up at work.
Wow. 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 It occurs to me that I think so many women leaders are fighters. We were bred to be fighters because there we were in rooms full of men. I can't tell you how many times I've taken the stage as the only woman among the crew of men in their blazers. And there I am, in my blouse looking like a total unicorn. And we've kind of had to fight to get our voice, heard. And we're now entering into an era where I think women are ready to put down our weapons and use our intrigue, like you would say. And so as we wrap up here, I want to make sure women know how to find you and how to get this book and where's the best place to buy it. And I also want to hear, like any last nuggets or stories around how we can continue to be aligned enough to go high instead of going low, right?
Yes. Okay, Sage, you and I both believe in being rising tide leaders. And I think the way that we can do this as a woman entrepreneur is to Pablo Picasso our life. And Pablo said, the purpose of life is to find your gifts. The meaning is to give them away. So here's a short story that shows that idea. But over on the left is imposter syndrome. Are people suffering from who am I to write a book? Who am I to write? I don't have a degree. I am right. So the very first year of the Maui Writers Conference, I was the MC as well as the executive director. So I would go out on the beach. We're both beach people. I'd go out on the beach in the morning to get my intro straight. Here's a woman sitting on the beach crying. And I went over, I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm not okay." She said, "I don't belong here." I said, "You don't belong here?" She said, "Who am I to write a book?" She said, "It's like you're putting yourself up on a pedestal saying, I know you don't. It just feels so arrogant." And I said, "Why do you want to write a book?" And she and her husband had adopted a child, and it was very challenging. And she said, "I went to the bookstore. I went to the library to try and find books to help. There are all these Pollyanna books about what a blessing it is to be an adoptive parent. They made me feel worse." She said, "I want to write the book I need. I can't find." I said, "What's an example of what you want to write about?" She thought about it for a moment. She said, "I want to write about the time that I fixed spaghetti for dinner. And Ari is 3 years old, and he reaches across the table and he grabs a handful of spaghetti and he throws it in my face. And my first thought was, my son would never have done that." And the shame that I felt that thought had even occurred to me. I said, "What else?" She said, "I want to write about, though, even though he's challenging, when it's time to send pictures of Ari to his birth mother, I still edit out the cute ones." I said, "Jana, the question is not, are you perfect? The question is not, do you have an MFA or a PhD? I said, you know what the question to ask is? Would someone reading my book benefit?" Because, see, if someone reading your book will benefit, not only do you have the right to write, you have a responsibility to write. Have you ever thought of it that way? Is it lessons learned in your head help no one? So I'm reaching out to everyone in your community, Sage, because I know that one of the reasons they're part of your community is because they have clarified a gift, or they have a story to tell, or they have lessons they want to share, or they have experience, expertise, epiphanies that might make a difference for someone. And over on the right, instead of being, who am I? We're going to say, I have a right and a responsibility to share this with others in the hopes that they might add value and contribute what I've learned so other people don't have to the hard way.
Amen. And a woman, thank you for reminding us that it's actually about our life experience. It's actually about being real. It's actually not about getting out there and being perfect. In fact, what people are craving more than ever is the journey that you've been on, the imperfect edges, the leaders who are willing to get out there and hang the dirty laundry on the line and remind the world that you don't have to be perfect to grow and evolve and to care about each other. And the skills that you give us, Sam, they help us build the most important thing in life, which is relationship with others, relationship with ourselves. You know, when we get to the end and it's over and we're looking back, we're not going to be measuring ourselves by dollars in the bank account or how many followers we have on social media. We're going to be measuring ourselves by the love that we participated in. And thank you for bringing the skills to the world that have allowed me to have even more healthy relationships with my friends, my team. My fiance loves this book. So how do we find it, and what's the best way to follow you and get more of you?
Well, thank you, Sage. It's wealth in what matters, isn't it? Is being close with friends and family and doing what lights us up in service to others. And so people can connect with me. It's real easy. My website is samhorn.com. So it's SAMHORN.com. My 3 TEDx talks are there. All my different books are there. And I hope people also follow me on LinkedIn, because my life is my lab, as it is yours. And I love going for walks on this stream trail and overhearing a conversation. And then just like a jazz pianist will riff off chords, I riff off life to write about how we can show up on a daily basis and be a better parent or partner or leader. So connect with me on LinkedIn too.
I'll put those links here in the show notes and in the comment that accompanies this. Sam, thank you for all the work you've done on yourself so that you could be this incredible, wise woman of the land for us. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. It's we're all lucky to live Catherine Graham lives. She said to do what you love and feel that it matters. How could anything be more fun? That's how we feel, right?
I look forward to hearing how you all liked this interview underneath this video and in our podcast reviews. We love you all. Thank you for being the very best part of Women Rocking Business, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe so I can keep getting you weekly content to grow your business that is relevant, authentic, and effective so you can get out there and shine your light and be the messenger that you're here to be, because your clients are waiting for you.